Hi everyone, my name is Lisa Steinhaven, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Chaplin's first national film called Sunnyside. Just a few facts and figures for you, in case you aren't up on the film too much. This is the third first national film for Chaplin, and of course, the first national contract was his biggest contract to date. And if you watch my presentation on Chaplin and First National, you'll find a little bit more out about that contract. But it gave him a lot more independence than his other ones and allowed him to build his own studio and to take more time with each film. He was only really supposed to complete 8 films in 16 months, which gave him a lot more leeway. Production began on November 4th, 1918, but this was about a month and a half after his marriage to Mildred Harris, which was a marriage that Chaplin didn't really want or seek. So he was married to her on September 23rd, and by November, he was a mess, and that's putting it mildly. So this is really the first film in which Chaplin is experiencing a creative block. So he titles the film Jack of All Trades at the beginning, and really that's a great title for the film because he basically didn't know what he was going to do with the film or what kind of story he was going to tell. And with that sort of a title, he could really go in any direction. So the only staunch thing that he did was to rent the Phelps Ranch and take his company out there and film some scenes out there, most of which he scrapped, but there are lots of country scenes that we see in the film that did make it in. By December, and we can see this on the next slide, but I'll talk about it now. We can see that the press has still no idea of what the film's going to be like. So we're talking about 2 months later, there's still no real idea, and he's not even really giving a title or anything at that point. And by January of 1919, he's totally flummoxed as to what he's going to do. So it's really not until March that he starts to work in earnest on the film again. So he's finding different excuses not to work on it all throughout January, February. He changes the name to Putting It Over for a while, goes back to Jack of All Trades, and then by March he gets an inspiration and he starts working on it finally, and comes up with the name Sunnyside and turns it in by April 15th, which is the day before his birthday. So I'm sure that he, in some wild deadline that he made for himself, decided that he wanted it done by his birthday that year. Here's the press release that I was talking about that says there's very little information. The story is laid in a small country town. Little is known of the nature of the forthcoming release, but we have received several advanced stills that showed Chaplin in his usual garb, except no cane, basically. That's about all they have as of December 21st. And then I want to talk about a few of the scenes that you will notice. First enigmatic scene, I think, is the Nijinsky-esque one, which is like a little ballet within the film with these darling young ladies. There seems to be no rhyme or reason for this, except that it might be a sort of a dream sequence that little Charlie's having. We know he's very balletic, and he's been visited at the studio by Nijinsky in recent memory, so perhaps that's where this emanated from. Here's another nice close-up of the ladies and Charlie, very beautiful here. I always keep the watermark, the Chaplin watermark, on these photos so that you know that they are from the Chaplin archive. You can always go and take a look at them. The photo bank is on charliechaplin.com, And the Chaplin Archive is charliechaplinarchive.org. Either one of those places you can find all kinds of goodies to look at. Possibly the most disturbing scene. There's two disturbing scenes. One of them to me is the bullying of Edna's mentally disabled brother. At least I think that's who this character is. Not quite clear. He could simply be the town disabled character. Not sure, but this clip is actually included in the list of clips for this film on the YouTube channel for the Chaplin official. And, basically what happens is that Two's Company, Three's a crowd, and as little Charlie's courting Edna, this young man gets in the way, and basically what he ends up doing is chasing him outside into traffic. So we have a mentally disabled man, going around in circles in the middle of traffic for the rest of the film. It's not. The other one is the suicide scene, which we can't really decide whether it's a dream, a hallucination, or an actuality in the film. It comes near the end when it appears that Edna has thrown Charlie over for the rich boy who's had an accident in town and has spent a couple of days recouping there and has won Edna's heart. We don't know whether Charlie has actually committed suicide, has dreamt of committing it, or the final scene where we see the rich boy leaving town without Edna is our true ending, or perhaps that ending is another sort of fleeting hallucination of the little tramp. We don't know. This is still being discussed. So certainly interesting moments in a film. One of the deleted scenes is a delightful scene in a barber shop. Of course, we know that the Chaplin boys loved the barbershop scenes. This one involves the victim, Albert Austin. And here we see Tom Wilson, who's the landlord or Charlie's boss, giving Charlie some problem as he's barbering Albert. And this entire clip is also included on the Charlie Chaplin official YouTube channel, which I've included the link at the end of this presentation. And it's the usual, Chaplin boys in a barber chair as barbers sort of hijinks. We have Sidney Chaplin having done this in a Keystone short, also in his failed feature King, Queen, Joker, and also spiraling on into the future in The Great Dictator for Charlie himself. So lots of emanations of this particular gag in Chaplin films. Final comments. Sunnyside marked Chaplin's first film made during a creative blockage, but it wasn't his only film. The next film, which I'm going to be introducing also, which is A Day's Pleasure, is another one of those films, except that one was created in a sort of a different manner, and I will be talking about that in a different intro. He was to follow this film with one other such film, as I said, but then we get The Kid, which is an undoubted and creative masterpiece. So, can we stomach a couple of not so good Chaplin films in order to get something like The Kid? After that, we have The Idle Class and Payday, which are also perhaps not masterpieces, but are fan favorites for many people. So the First Nationals are sort of up and down for a lot of folks. The Dog's Life and Shoulder Arms, big money makers and hits. The Kid, a huge hit, but then those that come betwixt in between, not so much. So certainly an interesting creative time for Chaplin. And then following this film, Mildred gave birth to their only son, Norman, born on July 7th, 1919, who died again 3 days later. And this, caused of course, Charlie, some great grief, and also seems to be an impetus towards the idea of making a film with a young boy, an orphan boy, who turns out to be Jackie Coogan. But it certainly plants the seed for that particular idea, which turns out to be an incredible masterpiece going forward. So that's the context for our film Sunnyside. Here are a list of most of the clips of Sunnyside on the Charlie Chaplin official YouTube channel. You will find others if you look. All you have to do is put in the name Sunnyside. Export SAS, which is the organization, the Charlie Chaplin official organization, which you can find at charliechaplin.com. The charliechaplinarchive.org, which is hosted by the Cineteca di Bologna in Bologna, Italy. David Robinson's seminal book, Chaplin, His Life and Art. The Media History Digital Library, which, if you haven't been there, will blow your mind if you happen to go and visit online. And, of course, the Niles Film Museum and Rena Keene, who graciously asked me to join this year. And that's all. Thank you very much.